Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Dan Ritchie, president of the Functional Aging Institute, and really excited to introduce my good friend, Paul Holbrook, who has been a Functional Aging Institute advisory board member since 2014. We reached out to him and said, hey, we got to have you on your board. And I think he was like, how did you guys even think of me? And we said, well, we've been watching you from afar, unbeknownst to you. So we have admired what Paul has done with age performance now over the last 15 years and his career. And he's really laid quite a foundation of years of experience. And so to hear what he has learned over the last 30 years of training is going to be a treat for all of us. And if you're not familiar with Age Performance, you should check out their website. They're in Salt Lake City, Utah. One of these days I'm going to get out there and visit. It's been on my list to do now for several years. So Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you. If you want people to type in the chat or to hop on camera at any point, just let me know. I can help facilitate that. I've got everyone muted at the moment, so but I will be here. So take it away.
Thank you. Yeah, we have kind of small numbers. So it'd be great if people wanted to just chime in or answer questions at any time during this presentation. And I really appreciate being involved with the Functional Aging Institute. And, you know, Dan, if you ever come out, come out in the winter to go skiing. Probably the best time to come out. It's kind of hesitant to approach this topic because I think, like with anything else, the longer I do this work, this kind of sounds cliche, but it's true. Like, the more I don't know what I'm doing, or the more I know that I don't know. And Dan and I have kind of had discussions about this before. There's oftentimes where I get up and I'm like, wow, do I really know what I'm doing? It just comes up. But we have had good success over Age Performance opened in 2005, but I've been training older adults for 30 years, and we have been, quite successful. We were doing about 120, 130 hours of training sessions a week before the pandemic. Of course, we dropped way down, but we're back up to about 110. So we're getting pretty close to where we were. And when I started personal training, it was at a time when it was in its infancy. And I wasn't even sure you could make a living doing it. I had several people tell me, you can't really make a living doing this. It was kind of like a pseudo field or a pseudo profession. But I was kind of trying to just kind of navigate and discover what I wanted to do with it. And early on, I knew that there was a huge component to it of functionality. When back then it was more about aesthetics, and really wealthy people could only participate in it. Well, not only, but that was kind of the mainstream. But I knew that there was a huge need for older adults and the ability for them to function. And I just kind of then just followed that thought process and kind of just kept going with it. Where I went and got a graduate degree in gerontology and then an internship at Tufts University under the direction of Maria Fierrone, who was a primary researcher in one of the landmark studies with strength training in older adults in 1994. And then I just kind of have gone from there. And I do remember when I got the call from Cody and Dan, and throughout my career, it's just kind of been trial and error. And I'm really grateful for these guys to really bring it together in a format of certifications and a platform like they have done. And it's been a real honor to be associated with them, and look forward to many more years. in approaching this topic, there were kind of three things I wanted to come up with. And because these are kind of, in general, like if I could share just three things, and I think there's a lot of things I could share that I've learned over these years. And of course, I'm still learning, and I certainly don't believe I have all the answers by any means. And, I'm still kind of questioning, like I said, what I'm doing. But I want to kind of talk about the simplicity of programming and, just encourage you all to make it simple, and then talk a little bit about burnout, because that will happen if you stay in the industry long enough, or in life, right? Life presents its own burnout opportunities. And then being present. That's a big one for me. And we'll dive into that at the end, but almost everything we do at Age Performance, the foundation of how we work, from training to marketing to customer relations, it's all about being present or being mindful. And there's kind of a difference between the two, and I'll get into that later, but they're kind of synonymous. But I think, I honestly believe that the success we have had has been because of that foundation of being present, or conscious. But going forward, in keeping it simple, we all know about the five fundamental human movements: the push, the pull, the hinge, the squat, and the carry. It can be as simple as, just pushing and pulling and getting up from the ground. And, I think there's so much information out there, and like even this conference and other conferences you go to, and then the stuff that's on the internet, and am I doing the latest and greatest thing, if there is such a thing? And I surmise there really isn't. I think we're in a profession that maybe it's not so great to think outside the box, because the box we have works. Push, pull, hinge, squat, carry, it works. It's like, I consider this kind of work as like blue collar work, right? It's, get in the ditch and start digging. The human body is a human body. There's really nothing new that you're gonna bring forward to make the body perform better. Now, it's good that we are kind of searching and investigating, but we're not like the IT industry, where innovation is changing. I don't know anything about the IT industry, but every 6 months or whatever. But we're in an industry that, the physical body is gonna stay the same for the most part. And I'm not saying we shouldn't look for new ideas. We should. We've come a long way from kind of the old bodybuilding paradigm as a way to work out people through functional training, and now speed and power training for older adults is kind of relatively new. But in general, kind of just keeping things, I always tell people, my clients or even trainers that I work with, make clients breathe hard and make them sweat, and if they breathe hard and sweat, then I know I'm doing something right. So the other thing that we do is we have these 5 fundamental human movements, and then we do these 5 resets or corrective exercises. And these resets are based on original strength. If you don't know original strength, we use their program a lot, because I think it's fabulous for older adults. And the 5 resets are abdominal breathing, rocking, head turns, head nods, head turns, rolling, and crawling. So when you have the 5 fundamental human movements in conjunction with the abdominal breathing, rocks, rolls, head nods, head turns, and crawling, it's a great fit. And it makes things really simple, because those 5 resets are a great warm-up. They get the body to reset itself, much like a computer. Like when your computer's not working well, you shut it down, and restart it, reboot it, and then it, it operates better. And that's kind of what the 5 resets do, in conjunction with some other things. And then finding multi-purpose movements is important in keeping your program simple, in terms like using using exercises that are going to be kind of like a big bang for your buck. We're going to cover a lot of the things that we are trying to accomplish with our older adults. So, I think just getting down and getting up from the floor is fabulous. We use that a lot. And then crawls, we do a lot of crawling. And then the carries. But again, I think with this, it's, make people sweat and make them breathe hard. And that's another point that I want to touch on. And I see this more and more, is I think in the training world, we're becoming kind of too clinical and too physical therapist-like. And we're not physical therapists. At least I don't think we are. I think we're trainers, we're coaches. And our job is pretty different than physical therapists, although there is some crossover a bit. But when I go back to make people breathe hard and make people sweat, because that's where the magic is. That's where the benefits that we hear about it from exercise, whether it's preventing heart disease and sleeping better, better brain cognition, all, avoiding certain cancers and, Alzheimer's, all those things, it's really based on blood flow. And it's really based on the intensity, I believe, of the exercise. That's where the magic is. That's where the things, even today, are happening that we don't know about. Scientifically, we haven't proven yet. And so sometimes I get a little concerned with trainers not working clients hard enough. Okay, again, we don't want to do too hard, right? But I'm really seeing that a lot. And if you're new to the field, I guarantee you one thing that's going to keep your trainers keeping your clients coming back to see you is knowing that they have kind of crossed that threshold of, wow, I've really worked. Wow, I got a good sweat, right? We all know what that feels like. It's addictive, okay? I don't mean to exploit the addictiveness of it, but it is that. We know that. But again, that's where all the benefits come from. So I always make a point in my training sessions. Again, if they come in just totally trash, we'll adapt. But for the most part, I'm making sure that they are they're working. They are working and they feel it, and not so that they're stiff the next day, but they've got that buzz, and that buzz will keep them coming back. Crawls are great, carries are great, all that. And okay. So so in talking about like multi-use kind of outcomes from an exercise, I have this slide up here because it kind of illustrates what ultralight backpackers are doing these days. And I don't know if you know much about backpacking, but backpacking is to some, and has been in the past, where you have a really heavy package. You've got everything on your back. You got your food and your pots and everything you're cooking with and extra clothes and all your gear, right? And packs were 40, 50 pounds and they're super heavy and uncomfortable because you had like something for everything that you needed on your trip. So now you have this ultra backpacking kind of movement going on. It's been going for a while, but the idea is to lighten up the load, of course, and to use items that are going to be multifunctional. Okay, and this is kind of in relation to what we choose for our exercises. But one example is ultralight backpackers will take trekking poles. Okay, those trekking poles have a lot of uses to them. They help propel yourself forward, saving kind of energy on your legs if you're going uphill. They save energy going downhill because you're kind of using also that pole to kind of to reduce the impact going downhill. They help you cross rivers. They help with balance. They can help, hopefully that doesn't happen, but ward off any kind of a strange animal, snake or whatever, coyote or bobcat or even a bear. You may have not much chance against that, but you have something. But also you can use your poles for your tent. So instead of carrying tent poles, you're carrying these trekking poles. and they become your pulse for your 10. And then there's other items like that too. So, and that illustration of that. So, Functional Aging Institute has done a really good job coming up with that honeycomb diagram of working. We have a lot to work on as trainers. We have a lot to cover. We're responsible for a lot of things to produce in our sessions for our clients. And sometimes we only have 2 times a week to do that. Sometimes 3, and if they're coming 5 times a week, then great. And I want to point out, our model is mostly personal training or very small groups, like just 2 people. But that's been our model from day one, and it's worked so well, we've just kept it. But I just wanted to put that out there because we don't do a lot of big groups. But going back to that honeycomb idea or diagram, we got mobility to work on, we have flexibility, we have strength, we have speed and power, we have cardiovascular, we have, working the brain. And so there's a lot there and a lot to get into it. But if we take, this is an example, but if we take like speed and power, which I really, really like, and I did a presentation on it yesterday, and we're going to touch on it a little bit today, but working speed and power, is a big bang for your buck movement. It's gonna be that ultralight backpacking kind of idea. Because what are we gonna get out of someone, out of a client, when we work their work speed and power or rapid movement? We're gonna work their power, of course, and their speed and their strength. Okay, it's also gonna induce their heart rate getting up, okay? So cardiorespiratory fitness, which can be great for brain health, we know that, getting that blood flow. And it's gonna work balance too, which I'm gonna touch on in a minute. But going back to the strength, there's been some recent articles suggesting that this is where I think it gets really cool, right? I love this. When you are working speed and power, you're not using as much weight as you would if you're doing strength, right? Strength, we're going to use maybe 80-85% of 1RM, maybe 90% of 1RM. Speed and power, we're going to drop that down to maybe 40, 50, or 60% of 1RM so that they have that ability to move it fast. Well, what's important when moving that moderate kind of weight fast is that you don't go beyond the time or repetitions where they start to slow down their velocity. You want to keep that velocity high. We're lucky, we have Kaiser equipment and we can do fast movements on it, and it gives us a readout of the percentage of what their power is, basically. So if they're hitting 100 or 95 or 90%, we know that their velocity is right where it should be on any particular movement. Once they hit 85 or lower, like stop, because we want them to, we don't want them to diminish their power or speed. We want their body, their neurological system, and the muscular system to remember that. Well, guess what? There's been some recent studies out suggesting that when you do that, you're also building strength. Okay, that is so cool. So there you go, 2 multifaceted outcomes for just working, speed and power. Now balance, okay. This came to me. When you're working speed, whether it's speed of movement on any kind of like a push or a pull, or even if it's on a bike, which is really safe, right? Safe biking, putting an older adult on a bike is really safe, whether it's a Schwinn or a Kaiser total body bike, or even a spin bike, or even a recumbent bike. We use recumbent bikes for some of our frail older adults just because it's a little safer than being on an upright bike in terms of losing balance or not losing balance. But when you do that, when you do speed work, you stimulate the inner ear. You stimulate the labyrinth, which is in the inner ear. And the labyrinth needs speed as a stimulant. Okay, so to keep that healthy, that's what you need. It was something really interesting. I was at it was about 2 years ago, it was before the pandemic. I was at this outdoor party at this house, and a gentleman there asked me about, he knew what I did for a living. He asked, what can I do for balance? Because he was 76 years old. He goes, my balance isn't so great, or I'm seeing that I'm losing my balance. What can I do? And I said, well, of course, you can stand on one leg for 30 seconds, or you can stand on your leg while you're brushing your teeth, all the typical things. But then I also said, because I knew this was the case, just, again, this is something this is something that came to me intuitively. And over the 30 years of experience of doing this and working with clients, is this idea that, yes, speed is something that can be done to help improve balance. It shouldn't be the only thing you count on or use, but it's something that's going to be beneficial. But I said, look, do you have a bike at the place you're working at? She said, yeah, of course. So I said, look, get on your bike and go as hard as fast as you can for like 6 or 7 seconds, or even 5. Stop, come to a complete stop, rest for 30 to get a full recovery, and then do that again for 5, 6, 7 seconds, and then stop, get full recovery after 30 or 40 seconds, and do that 6 or 7 or 8 times. And when I was explaining this to him, there was this woman in the same group of people that were talking, and she was kind of eavesdropping, and she perked up. She said, well, that's really interesting. And she happened to be an ear, nose, throat surgeon, so she knew this stuff. She said, that's really interesting. She said, the labyrinth in the inner ear needs speed as a stimulus or as a stimulant. Anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm just bringing that up so that to go back to that previous slide of, pick exercises that are going to be, multifaceted in their outcomes, and then keep it simple. And particularly, again, when there's so much information coming at us, it can be easy to be sidetracked. And we can lose focus and we can lose our grounding. And it happens to me. I lose my grounding sometimes of, gosh, am I doing the right things? Look, this guy over here is doing this. But keep it, I always come back like, no. Push, pull, hinge, squat, carry, sweat, and breathe hard. To further this point, if you think about, and I go back to this one too, this idea in this study. In 1994, right, Maria Fiatarone did that study with older adults. She did it in a nursing home, and the average age of these subjects was 87 years of age, and there were 100 of them, many of them on walkers and canes. And after 12 weeks of training on just machines, and they were doing strength training, not speed or power, they were doing strength training. They had a chest press, a leg press, a seated row, a leg extension, leg curl, a seated dip, and an overhead press. And after 12 weeks of training at 80% of 1RM, again, this was a huge deal because it had never been done before with this many older adults with this intensity. And the results were phenomenal. They improved their strength over 110%. They improved their ability to climb stairs 28%. And then their walking speed improved by a half mile an hour. Now, this was a study a long, long time ago. But if you really look at that, basic, but they improved all those things. And not only that, they improved in their, what they found is they became more social. They went and did more social activities. So they became more functional. So I'm grateful that we have, that we are learning beyond that. But at the same time, that fits in really well even today. Okay, enough on that. If there's any questions, chime in, but you can also ask questions at the end. All right, burnout. So let's touch on this a little bit. And when I went and submitted this idea for this presentation, I didn't know at the time when I submitted it weeks and weeks ago that I was going through another phase of burnout. So I guess it's, appropriate that I'm speaking on this because I am feeling like I am entering another phase of burnout. And I think that's important to understand is that, right, there's going to be these valleys and peaks through our career or through our life where maybe the valley is a burnout and we come out of that valley and we come to the peak and we're feeling great. We know what we're doing. We're confident. Maybe there's another downward spiral to another burnout phase. But I wanted to talk about that, and I feel like I'm kind of in that phase right now in my own life with my own work. But I think in the description in this presentation, I think I said avoiding burnout, and I knew that I was writing that, and I knew that wasn't true when I wrote it, but I put it in there because you guys need to come and listen to this, because there is no avoiding burnout. It's just life. And for me, going into this, again, I don't know really what I'm doing with it, because it's one of those situations in life that right? It's like anything that can come at you that you really resist, right? Whether it's a divorce or a death or a death of somebody in your family or a close friend or whatever. So I really don't have any answers to it. But what I do know is that it's real. I do know that I can't resist it. If I resist it, it's going to make it worse. So what I'm doing is I'm inviting it. And I'm trying to be with it and know that it will run its course, particularly if I don't resist it. And if I surrender to it, it will run its course. Now, the beautiful thing is that it allows me to look at things differently. It allows me, like, maybe redefine myself or redefine the way I'm going to train, which I've done in the past. I'm still I'm still doing my training, but it has evolved over the years. So there's a good thing about it, right? And we'll get into that. So signs of burnout, being exhausted, being more cynical, feeling useless, depressed, hate your job, more irritable, mind wanders, deprived of sleep, food, drugs, alcohol, and frequent headaches. Okay, so since I'm a case study here, exhausted, yes. More cynical, yes. Feeling useless, yes. Depressed, yeah, to a degree. Hate my job, yep. Yeah, and maybe I shouldn't be admitting these things, right? But I am. More irritable, maybe, not so much. Mind wanders, yeah. Deprived of sleep, yes. Food, drug, alcohol, no, not that yet. I'm not an alcohol drinker anyway, but I may turn to it. And headaches, no. Okay, anyway, they're the signs, and yep, I'm very well with the signs. So here's just some simple strategies that you can utilize to help with burnout, which I'm starting to also do. Try to find some value in your work. Now, this is a really interesting one because even if I'm not burned out, but I'm having a training day at work, and I'm in a session, and it's with somebody I'm really not connected with. The chemistry's not there, the vibe's not there, but I still have to do my job, of course, right? I'm a professional, I have to do my job, but it ain't jiving. And I feel myself sink, and I am bored to tears. So what I do is I recognize that, again, I don't resist those feelings. I surrender to them. And that centers me. And once I have that centeredness, then I'm able to be in the session better, whatever that means. But I also know that another strategy rather that I do is I think, okay, this job is really important. My attention that I give them is really important. What they're doing in this particular exercise is really important for their health and well-being and their ability to function in life. Because if they're not doing this, they're not going to do it on their own. That's why they came to see us or to see me, right? They're not going to do it on their own. And so I've got to do this for their benefit. And when I do that, that really helps me kind of come out of that. Changes my kind of frame of reference or my perception on at that moment. Okay. Oh, okay. Find balance in your life. Yeah, look for meaning in your life. If you need to find it elsewhere, but right, life is going to give you all kinds of opportunities to look at yourself. Take time off. So yeah, a lot of these things like go on vacation, you know, that's kind of a Band-Aid, but it can help. You know, what I've had to do, so during the pandemic, before the pandemic, I was training probably 25 hours a week, and that was really good. That was a good workload. It wasn't too much. Other trainers were cranking hours out. Really, the business was just really doing well. And then the pandemic hit, right? Shut down for 2 months, like all you did. And then we reopened up in May. And it was people were sparsely coming in. Not everybody was coming in. I had 3 trainers leave. They were no longer coming back. So to get the business up and going again, I had to take on as many clients as I possibly could, right? So climbing out of it during the summer and fall, then I was back up to working 35, 40, 45 hours, okay? And then I was able to bring on some more trainers. Now we're back up to high numbers training, but and that's probably, one of the causes of why I'm going through this new phase of the burnout is because of those, again, 40, 45 hours training sessions, plus everything else that we have to do as business owners. But so now what I was also doing, so my day looked like I'd get up at, I literally would wake up at 3:30 to 3:45, and then I would meditate from 4 to 5. So I'd meditate for an hour, and then I'd go to the gym. I live really close, so I just would run over to the gym, work out from basically 5 to 5:45, get in the shower, and then start training at 6. Right, and now you can see the problem. And then I'd come home with my family at night, and I wouldn't go to bed till, I tried to go to bed early, but it wasn't until 10. So if you figure out those hours, I just wasn't getting enough sleep. Anyway, so yeah, I've had to make some real changes lately. So what I've done is just to free up some hours for myself, because that wasn't healthy. It wasn't at all. Is now I don't do my 6 a.m.s anymore. And that's a first. I've done 6 a.m.s from very first I started training, but now I'm not doing my 6 a.m.s anymore. I've got other trainers doing them. So that I get up later, I'm sleeping more. And so that's a strategy I'm doing to combat that. So reevaluate your priorities. Set boundaries. I think this is really important. It's easy for us trainers to get really involved with our clients. I have done that throughout my career. I'm doing less of it. I'm saying no to when I won't even go to parties anymore. If I get invited to a party or to an event, I just simply, first thing I say, no, I'm not doing that anymore. It just takes too much time away from my family. And if I said yes to every client that invited me to go do something, I would be just crazy. So you know, and I think too, you can decide for yourself whether how much, you know, we're there to train them. We're there to improve their physical health and well-being and their functionality. That's it. We're not there really to be their friend. We're not there I mean, that comes out, but I think it's important to just step back a little bit and see where you might be getting thrown into, you know, maybe some unhealthy boundaries with clients. So just watch that. I know I've had to do that. And I feel like I've got some pretty good boundaries now with clients. Taking a break from technology, I think that's really important. You know, we know how much we all spend on it. Well, I was watching this program on Netflix called Formula One, Drive to Survive, and it's about Formula One, and they interviewed all the car owners, not the car owners, sorry, but the car principals, kind of like the head coach of the whole Formula One team. And they asked them, like, what's the first, I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but I just am, but they asked 5 of them, what was the first thing you did in the morning when they woke up? And I think all but one said, well, I look at my cell phone, I look at my emails, first thing when I get up. You know, and that's one thing I haven't ever done. I get up, I make sure I take my time, I meditate and all that, but just notice if, you know, how, obviously we know how much we are on screens all day. And I think it's a good idea to take a break from that and to minimize that, really important. Okay, nourish your creative side. You know, 5 things that you do outside of training that brings kind of your creativity senses back. And then plenty of sleep. We all know the importance of that. And you know, I'm you know, for sure that's hitting me right in the face. And I am now up to maybe 6.5 now, well, probably 7 hours, 7.5, and that's good. I mean, of course I'd like 8, but if I can get 7.5, that is so much better than I was doing. And it is making a difference so far in my little kind of burnout phase. And I say little, I don't know if it's little or big really, because again, I don't know quite where I am with it. I'm a little bit lost. I'm just gonna write it out and see where it goes. Meditate or sit. You know, this is a biggie. I had a Zen teacher tell me once years ago, in terms of like, we're in the health business, right? We're trying to improve people's lives, and we're getting all kinds of information thrown at us from nutrition, from sleeping, from exercise, excuse me, from supplements. I mean, it just comes at us like crazy. And this Zen teacher said, there's probably just 3 things that you need to do: exercise, nutrition, and meditate. And that's huge. So that's kind of what I've done with my with Ace Performance, is just really focus on those 3 things. And I do that for my own health and my own kind of way of living, is I just focus on those 3 things for my health. So meditation is a big one. It reduces anxiety, promotes emotional health, and enhances self-esteem, reduces age-related memory decline. So that's huge, right? So this is something that we can present to our clients. Improve sleep, and sitting is accessible anywhere. My wife and I, we just got back from Bar Harbor, Maine. We just bought a house there, and just this past weekend. And on the plane, I would actually meditate. And it was a great place to do it because, right, what else am I going to do? I mean, I can do all the other stuff, but I wanted to stay off the screen time. And so I would take a good long time, like maybe 45 minutes to an hour doing that. All right, but it's a great thing to do. So, all right, shifting gears here. So we've talked about simplicity of training, keeping it simple. We've talked about burnout and how we can't avoid burnout. It's just going to be there. And maybe some strategies to help us get through it. So when you look at training, like I'm going back to like this conference that we're all attending, and then we're always mindful of books that we want to read, right? So we're always using our left brain to further our knowledge, which we need to do in the training world by reading, attending conferences, and getting degrees and certifications. And that's the science part of training, right? And I think we're just we're overworked on the science part of training. I don't hear much about other aspects of training when I go to conferences. But I think it's important to hit some of these other aspects. So the art of training would be like your relationship with your clients, what you bring to a training session, kind of your own ideas. That would be the art. The connection or being present aspect of training. And for me, this is a big one. And this is, like I said earlier in the presentation here, is how I have pretty much operated everything that I do at Age Performance, from training to marketing to customer relations. I know that if I work on myself being connected and being present, then almost everything else will fall into place. Now, that's taken a lot of trust and a lot of faith to on my part for that to work. But I wouldn't trade it for the world, because I find that when I go into more of the scientific realm of reading, which again I do, it's important, but it throws me off. Like, let me give you an example. I'm insecure in a lot of ways. And so when I read or come across somebody doing something in my profession that's a peer, it can throw me off, okay? I think you've all experienced this on Facebook. I'm not a big Facebook person, but I've gone on it from time to time. But it doesn't matter from where it comes, whether it's Facebook or something else. But it throws me off, right? And I can kind of get this internal, like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not like that guy. That guy's better. All that just, right? I can't stand it, but it happens. But I'm getting better at it, meaning it not having such a pull on me. And so being present allows me to notice that quicker and then just get back centered and let it go. It's happening better, it's happening quicker. So that's just one example. I use being present in the way I train, which I'll get to in a minute, but in marketing, and it's like, wow, what the hell does that have to do with marketing? Again, we do some marketing. We're not big into social media. I probably need to do more of that, and I'm going to probably talk to Dan about that. But we have been successful without doing it. We do a little bit of underwriting with public radio, but that's about it. But there's so many times when I'm training where I am putting forth the energetic kind of communication ways with clients that I'm doing such a good job with them that they are going to tell their friends. Again, it's coming down to being present, being conscious. I'm not verbalizing that to them. That's just what I'm putting out energetically. And guess what? It works. Okay, and that's what we've really worked or based a lot of our success on is having that kind of as a foundation. Kind of getting sidetracked here. So just quickly, the difference between kind of mindfulness and meditation, and this illustrates it pretty well. Mindfulness is like being aware of your emotions, kind of what your physical sensation, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and that's all good. And meditation is more about emptying that, kind of having an empty mind. Now, that's probably not possible, but there is a difference, and you could challenge yourself to see if you could find a way to see that difference. And just as an idea, like when you're out and about and you're really noticing your breath or you're walking or whatever, that's mindfulness. But try sitting in meditation and just be still. Just be silent and be still and see if you can see this distinction between the two. Being present means being actually engaged in what's going on right now. It's an important skill to tackle in everyday life. If you watch children, right, they naturally just do this very well. And I think we touched on this a little bit earlier. It reduces stress, boosts immune functioning, reduces chronic pain. There's so many benefits to meditation that it's crazy. And they find that people that are present are happier, more exuberant, more empathetic, and more secure. You can tell I need a lot more meditation. So tips to help being more present. Stop thinking. That's a hard one because we're always going to do that, but just notice how much thinking you're doing, particularly when you're in meditation. Focus on your breath and see if you can count your breaths to 10, like slow, long breaths. And you may notice you only get to 4 or 6, and that's okay. You just come back to 1. And it's the goal is not to hit 10. The goal is just to be present. And that's a good exercise to kind of just start a way to doing that. Stop worrying about the future. One of my meditation teachers would often says, the past is the past, right? Why worry about the past? You know it's not going to hurt you because it's already done. It's a done deal. The future hasn't happened yet. Well, I should speak for myself, right? I do that a lot. I'm in the future. But it's like, why? Why should I be scared of it? Because it hasn't happened yet. I can certainly project in my mind that all kinds of things are going to happen, right? I think we all do that, but it hasn't happened. So stop worrying about the past, stop worrying about the future. Allows you to be more in the present time. Don't avoid emotions or hard times or burnout or whatever. Move into it, lean into it, surrender to it, okay? And it's a better way to get through it. And then I think another good strategy to being present is to have this idea of like, we really don't know really how to do things. Like, again, yeah, I know how to train people. But sometimes I get up, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm being effective. I don't know if I'm, so sometimes it's kind of good to have this kind of underlying idea of I really don't know, whether it's training or life or whatever, just coming from a position or a place of like, I really don't know. And the truth of the matter is we don't know. I think there was something that came out recently about icing injuries, that icing a pulled muscle may not be the best thing. So things are always changing. Anyway, so carry that with you, the idea that you don't know. And then sit. Meditation is huge. Take time to sit every day if you can. I remember hearing someone say, time spent not meditating is a waste of time. So I'll just leave you with that thought. Staying with this idea of being connected or being present or consciousness, and this is what drives my training. And I have the boss up here for a reason, because I heard him on Stephen Colbert once. And he was being interviewed. And Stephen Colbert said to Bruce Springsteen, he said, you write in your book about the magic. And Stephen Colbert further says, I hear a lot of you musicians talk about magic. And Stephen Colbert goes on to say, I don't know what you mean by that. And Bruce Springsteen said, well, yeah. He said, it's me and the band were getting ready backstage or in our van, and we come on stage and people are coming into the arena, and they come in and we start to tune up our instruments, and then we start to play, and it's like this magic that happens, right? Bruce Springsteen doesn't know exactly what's going to happen or what's going to go on. He has an idea, but he goes on to explain that it's just instinctual and it's just being present, and it's this magical thing that happens. And then it just carries on. That is kind of what has driven my training. And that's kind of what I'd like to share ultimately with you all here, is try to develop more of that in your training rather than all of the scientific books and workshops and certifications. Work on your inner kind of physical empath. I call it being a physical empath. I don't know if this is hard to explain, but of course I know what I'm gonna do in a training session, but I really don't know. When a client comes in, I don't know. I don't want to know. I am going to, when that client comes in, I'm immediately going to just start to pick up energetically in a physical sense how they're feeling and what's needed in that session overall. You know, are they coming in tired? Are they coming in tired? And is that tired going to be best served by having an easy workout, like more recovery and, just recovery work? Or do they need a good jolt? Do they need sweat and breathe hard to kick them out of it, right? If I'm coming from this position, I'll hit it 100% every time, whether it's, the former of recovery or if it's a jolt. But nevertheless, I'll get that general feel. And then we go into the session, and I'm doing that through the whole session. That's what's dictating what we're going to do. Now, I'll have a general concept if we're going to work on speed and power, strength, or balance, or whatever. But as far as specific what exercise we're going to do, how many reps, how many sets, what the rest is going to be, I don't know. I am going off them. I am going off that energetic kind of communication between myself and them. That's this wonderful flow dictating the session, and it works. And it's like a bullseye every time. And that's where I'd like to see training going, or at least incorporating more of that in conjunction with all the scientific stuff that we're I can't tell you how many times where a client will come in and I'll go up to them and they might be nauseous, and I can literally I'll say you're feeling nauseous, aren't you? They say, hey, how'd you know? Because I start to feel it. And maybe that's just because of years and years and years and years of being in front of people, every hour, day in and month and weekly and yearly. But it's a heck of a way to, I think, connect with your clients and to connect with your business and how you run and how you run your business and how you relate to your customers. So I hope that makes sense. And again, if there's questions, that'd be great. Look, we're coming to an end here. In fact, we'll just make this our conclusion. So in concluding this, being present, so if you elicit that self-awareness or being present through meditation or yoga, or whatever it is, but if you really work hard at it and make it a priority, then it will keep your programming simple. It will help ground yourself so that when you do hear about all this other stuff that's out there, all this other noise, you will be able to sift out what is good and what is not, and most of it's not, but you'll be centered and really maintain that idea of simple programming. It will help you with burnout if and when that comes. So being present and being self-aware will help you connect to yourself and manage those hard times in life that will certainly come your way, in my way. And being present brings magic. Okay, it truly does. So, I think when I went into this presentation, or was thinking about it, things that I could share that I thought might be helpful, that I've learned over 30 years, would be keep it simple, be present and watch the burnout, and then be self-aware, be present to help in all aspects of training and all the other aspects of your life. With that, I will end and take any questions. Here's my information on this slide. You can reach out and call me or email me. Something too that I want to say here is I am the worst. Yeah, I am really bad at marketing, because I am also supposed to, in this presentation, kind of integrate what else we're doing with Age Performance, which is we are looking for affiliates. We have a successful system. We have it down. We're sharing it with others in terms of franchising or licensure. Like if you already have a business, a training business, and you want to bring the Age Performance model into it, then we can do that as well. Anyway, see, I am the worst marketer, but we have that available. And with that, Dan, I will end and you can take over.
All right, great stuff, Paul. What questions do we have for Paul? It's a small room. If you want to turn your camera on, you can, or your microphone on and speak, or type it in the chat. Either way, I see Lisa.
That's okay if there aren't any questions.
Okay, I'm trying to, okay. We have a new room and I'm still not orientated to it. I have a question, Paul, and I know you and I are the same age, and I don't know, I think it's the second half of life where it's just a whole series of emptying. That's how I would describe it. It's just like, keep it simple and how can I empty? But my question about your Age Performance model, do I have to have Kaiser equipment? Sorry, Kaiser. I see you from
yes.
here.
Yeah. I mean, I would go somewhere else. If from Age Performance standpoint, I am going to stick with Kaiser. What's that?
I don't get rid of all my equipment. We are using freeway. It's like the thought of putting equipment back in my gym really does make me want to retire.
You don't need that much.
How many pieces of Kaiser do you have, Paul?
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a lot. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, 12. Well, 11 pieces, but we have a lot of open space too. I cherish open space. I would not go without open space. Now, some of my, I can get by with less Kaiser.
Yeah. Well, let me ask it this way, Paul, because Lisa, it's a great question. Jackie reached out to me today and she's like, I think I need to get some Kaiser pieces. If I had to get 3 or 4, which ones would I get? So sort of 2 questions to dovetail with what Lisa's asking. Paul, if you had to do a footprint that was smaller, simpler, leaner, meaner, how many pieces of Kaiser would you have to have? And for someone like Jackie, who's like, well, what are the 3 or 4 Kaiser pieces that would really change my facility?
To make it really minimal. And again, I'm also having this thought of having other trainers in there, maybe just 1 or 2 other trainers.
Well, no, we train small groups. We have 11 a day.
11 what?
Small groups of 6 to 8 people.
Okay, all right. So we're talking. So this is a really good point because if my wife and I move to Maine, I'm going to do a different model. I mean, it's going to be age performance, but it's going to be a little different where I will work with groups. So sit down. Are you sitting down, Dan? I will do group training. But this is how I'm going to do it. This is how I'm going to do it is I'm going to set up 5 pods. Now, that means I'm only going to work with 5 people. I could work up to 7, but I'm going to buy 5 performance trainers. And in this pod will be a performance trainer, a TRX, valve slides, a set of dumbbells, maybe some kettlebells, a bike, a Kaiser bike or a Schwinn Aerodyne, all in a pod. And that pod's going to be in this section, and then I'll have another pod next to it with some room. They'll be next to each other with space in between. I'll have 5 pods. Behind the pods will be open space for crawling, for carrying, for whatever. That's what I'm going to do differently. Then I can work 5 people at one time. So yeah, I will invest in 5 performance trainers when I do that. Now, if I'm not going to work in small groups and I'm going to still do personal training, I probably would have 2 functional or performance trainers. And then maybe a Kaiser rack or a bike or, yeah, if I broke it down to 3, I'd have those 3 pieces. I would have multiple performance trainers.
Yeah. I have 2, Lisa, you've been to my facility. I have 2 performance trainers and 1 functional trainer, and we use them in small group 10 times a day. I mean, and the 2 performance trainers are, I don't know, 6-7 feet apart. And then the functional trainer, I mean, I can train 3 clients, boom, 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 all doing push and pull. And we can do the same exercise if I want to, or we can rotate and do 3 different ones. And then I can have 3 other clients out in the open space doing kettlebells, dumbbells, medicine balls, other stuff. And that stuff has been invaluable. I mean, if I was to do it over again and be simple, lean and mean, I would have a triple trainer, because I love the triple trainer. We had one of those at one of my facilities. It's 3 functional trainers back to back to back. But I would have probably 3 cable columns. So
I have a lineup of 2 treadmills, an elliptical, an arc, a spin bike, and a rower. If I got rid of all that,
get rid of it.
3, oh man.
Get rid of that stuff, and you could get, you could get 2 functional trainers, or you could probably even get, I mean, I can't tell you exactly, Lisa, because performance trainer, typically you have to mount to a wall. I see Jay is in the room, so maybe he could even answer, but functional trainers freestanding. The nice thing about that is, you can drop those in, and you can do so many cool things with them. So 2 or 3 of those, Lisa, and immediately. And you can use them with your groups. I mean, they work great. I mean, obviously you can use them in one-on-one training too, but they work great for group training too, and stations and rotations and circuits and all of that. So I personally love the leg press. I have loved the leg press since I first got on that thing years ago doing research. I still love the independent, single leg ability on the leg press. I've put NFL prospects on that thing, to people who can barely get out of a wheelchair. I mean, it's that wide functional range. I still remember being at the NFL Combine, and they tested me, and they're like, "Your left knee is not quite where I said, "Yeah, I know. I had ACL reconstruction, and something's still not." He's like, "We wouldn't put you out on the field." I'm like, "Nope, I wouldn't either." So, but it's that's. And this is from the guy who's like, get off machines, right? I'm like, like the leg press is not the most functional exercise.
Yes, Dan, it's from the man that said, get off a machine.
Yeah, but I love it. I think the Kaiser leg press is phenomenal, and I use it myself regularly, so.
Can I chime in?
Yeah.
We have 4 machines, and I know get off machines, but we need machines. If I have someone I love machines for the frail. Now, if you're gonna, I differ. I mean, I think the leg press is great too, but if I had a preference, I'd get the air runner. We've been using the air runner a lot. And
the air runner's awesome too.
Gosh, that thing. So I have a lot of our 80-year-olds and 85-year-olds on the air runner doing it with both feet. Now, if they're frail and they can't quite do it that way, we can do a single leg movement, right, Jay, on the air runner. And it's worked. It's been beautiful. I mean, it has more of that hip extension to it than a leg press. Anyway, I was going to put the air runner into my selection from your question, but I didn't.
Okay, so Jay, I probably need to reach out to you.
Yeah, happy to.
I bet.
No, we'll take care of you. You're part of the organization. No, but on the functional trainer, what I really prefer, and I tell people, is to do the floor mounted base, because you don't have the legs on there. One, it's cheaper because metal's horribly expensive right now, especially. But you don't have the trip hazard. And you can set that up in the triple trainer format. You can put them in a row in the middle of the room. We can do a lot of things and hide airlines. And so it just makes it look like a first class setup.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Is it Regine says, appreciate your honesty, Paul. I think people were appreciating your openness, and burnout's a real thing. Christine is asking you, Paul, if you have any suggestions on meditations to use, any specific?
I do.
Okay.
I definitely do. And it's a suggestion that came from a Zen teacher 26 years ago. And that advice is, do not read about it. Do not listen to podcasts about it. Just sit. The more you fill yourself up with concepts, the worse it will be. So you just sit. Sit in a chair, be comfortable, close your eyes and follow your breath. The simpler you keep it, the better. So if you get somebody that has no instruction on how to meditate, and they don't know what they're doing, but they just sit still day in and day out for 10, 15, 30, 45, 60 minutes, they will get to the same place that a Zen monk in a monastery will get to. There's a saying, quiet your body and your mind will follow. So it's that simple. Don't overthink it. Just sit, just sit, just sit. That comes from a Zen master, so that's pretty good reference.
Yeah, Christine says, I think that's always my problem. I get bogged down in the weeds of information and overthinking. So, well, Paul, thanks for both your sessions this weekend. If you missed Paul's first session, that replay will be available next week. You have access to all the recordings forever, or until the internet is no longer a fad. Paul, I'm going to have to reach out and find out about this house in Maine. That might be what I want to ask the most about, but
it just came about, man.
I was like, wait a minute.
It just came about. So we can chat.
Well, thanks so much, everyone. You're on a break now until 3 o'clock Eastern, so you got 20 minutes to stretch, relax, get some sunshine, or just sit still and be quiet. So. Thanks again, Paul.
Thank you.